Hey friends, on behalf of the Vine Grove United Methodist Church, we welcome you to our study of Parables of Precious People, Chapter 2, The Parable of the Unforgiving Servant. Thanks so much for being a part of this special day and this day of learning about this parable of the unforgiving servant. So, you're going to have a chance to see this parable in the book here in a little bit. But I wanted to share with you two important things to remember in addition to what you read today. The first thing is this important condition about forgiveness. Because when you follow Jesus, the beautiful thing of Jesus is we are being freely forgiven of our sins. The mistakes we make, no matter what mistakes they may be, God can forgive us if we ask. If we heartily ask, God, please forgive me for my mistakes, God is so very willing to do that. That is His mercy and His grace that is so powerful. Now, while God is willing to do that, the lesson we find in our Bible today, not only in this parable, but also in the Lord's Prayer that we find in Matthew 6, Jesus says two different times these important words. If you want to be forgiven by Jesus for your mistakes, you have to be willing to forgive others of their mistakes. So, if you've made a mistake in your life, but you're not willing to forgive someone of their mistake, then don't expect that God will easily and freely forgive you. Work on forgiving that person of what they've done in your life so you can freely get the beautiful forgiveness that Jesus offers for your life. Really important. Beautiful and powerful words those are. So what does that look like? Well, you're going to see that more in your lesson today. But a great exercise to do would be to think, okay, so I made a mistake this week. I let a brother down. I just said I would do something and I didn't, and it really hurt them. So I really want forgiveness from Jesus for that mistake. Jesus is very willing to give you that freedom, that forgiveness. But then at the same time, Jesus wants to ask you, okay, did someone make a mistake that they've asked for forgiveness for? And have you been willing to forgive them? That's important. Jesus is very clear. If we want to be forgiven of our mistakes, we have to be willing to forgive others of their mistakes. So, what will you do to forgive others of your mistakes? And what will you do to allow yourself to be forgiven by Jesus for your mistakes? Okay, so that's the first thing. Here's the second. Forgiving and forgetting are two different things. Forgiving and forgetting are two different things. So let me give you an example of that. On the one end, when we forgive someone, we are saying, whatever debt that you owe me is no more. It's gone. It's done. And that debt could be a monetary forgiveness, but it may also be just a forgiveness from your heart, forgiveness from your mind. So if someone has hurt you, for example, then you can say, I forgive you. I don't hold a grudge anymore. I don't think bad things of you. I don't want to get revenge for you hurting me. It's forgiven. That is beautiful, friends. However, here's why forgiveness is different than forgetting. Because while you may have forgiven them of their sin, and you may have freed your heart from that desire to get revenge because they have wronged you, that doesn't mean that you totally forget. Because maybe God's giving you a lesson. You need to remember, this person hurt you, and you got to make sure that you're not hurt again. Now, every situation's different. That's important to understand. Every situation's different. If someone is really, really sorry for hurting you, and you can tell, you may have this beautiful chance to have a relationship with them again. They may even be your brother. They may be your sister. However, very, very important to listen to this. However, if that person has really not learned their lessons in that forgiveness, if they show that they may very well hurt you again, then you may forgive them of the debt and no longer harbor ill feeling in your heart. But that doesn't mean you allow yourself for them to hurt you again. Because you see, if you forget totally that sin, maybe you're forgetting that you may be putting yourself in position for them to hurt you again. In the United States, we have a number of people, we have many thousands of people who report being abused by someone that they love. And when that happens, you might be able to forgive them of the things that they've done to hurt you. But wisdom would say, if they haven't learned their lesson, if they look like they will still hurt you again, don't put yourself in that position, which means you can't forget. You can't forget. There may be a lesson here. That lesson may be you can't be with them because they may hurt you some more. Now, that's sometimes a little bit difficult to understand and describe, but it's really powerful and very, very important. So let me give you an example. Recently, someone had asked if they could borrow money for me to help with a bill that they needed to pay. Now they said to me, "Oh, we will pay you back. We promise we will pay you back." Well, I paid them the bill. I paid the bill for them. And then they kept saying, "Oh, I'll pay you back, I'll pay you back, I'll pay you back." And then nothing. Well, one day they came up to me and they asked, can I borrow some money? I promise I'll pay you back. And I said, "Well, you made that promise a few months ago and then you never did." "Oh, well, I'll pay you back that." And I said, No, that's okay. I forgive you. And that was the right thing to do. Forgive them of that debt. But at the same time, I didn't forget that they aren't very good about paying back their debt. And so I said, I can help you in some ways, but I can't help you here. So I had to make an important choice because I have limits to what I'm able to do personally. So I said to them, "I forgive you of that debt. You don't owe me anymore, but I can't give you money right now because I just don't have it. I don't have it to give to you." So we worked out a deal where, if they have other needs, like sometimes they need a little food, we have food we can give them. But I can't just give them money because in this particular case, they just don't pay it back. So this is why it's important to understand the difference between forgiving and forgetting. Sometimes it is okay to totally forget a debt, but sometimes God gives you the memory to keep you from being hurt again. So please remember that important lesson. It is really, really important. The beautiful thing of Jesus and his forgiveness of us is it is a truly unconditional forgiveness. Our human forgiveness is conditional, which means maybe I forgive, but I can't always forget. Try to forget if you can, but maybe there are important lessons to be learned. So maybe God's telling you, remember, just enough not to get mad, but just enough to make sure they don't hurt you again. This is why in Romans 12, verse 18, these are very important words. It says, "When possible, so far as it depends on you, live in peace with one another." Do the best you can to live in peace. But if the other person's not willing to live in peace, there's only so much you can do. Relationships take two people. Actually, if you really want to be truthful, relationships should always think of three people. You, the person you're in a relationship with, and our good Father Almighty who gives both of us life. Well, that's all I can share with you today, but I really want you to think about those important lessons. If you want to be forgiven, You got to be willing to forgive others. But remember that forgiveness and forgetting are two different things. And don't get me wrong, maybe many times when you forgive, you can also forget, but not always. So just remember that, because when we learn those lessons well, we give ourselves a greater capacity, a greater opportunity, a greater strength to be able to love other people. Well, that's all the time I have for today, but hey, hope for you a great study, and God bless you, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.